Hello and welcome to another Q&A with me, Shakina. I'm here for the next 60 minutes to answer all of your OET questions live on air. Um, the format of this session is quite simple. I'm going to just give you an idea of that right now. So if you've got a question, all you need to do is post it in the chat wherever you are. So if you're on Facebook, you could post it on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, you post it on YouTube. Those questions will come through to me here, and I will work my way through answering as many of them as possible. And it really doesn't matter where where you are in your OET journey. You could be starting out, so you're completely new to OET. You don't have any previous background knowledge of OET. It could also be that you have a test coming up very soon this weekend, and you have a question. So wherever you are or in between, no question is a silly question. So post in your questions, and I will try to work my way through as much as possible. All right. So I'm going to start off with this first question from MRYM on YouTube. And they're asking, how is OET on computer and how much do they need to score a 350? So in terms of the test and the skills that you need to be successful, whether you're taking OET on paper, on computer, or at home, any of those test modes, they're the same. So the level of challenge is the same. The skills that you need to be successful are the same. That you can rest assured of that. What is different though is the format of the test. So, what I mean by that is the mode, sorry, not the format, the mode. So, obviously, in writing, for example, you'd use a pen and paper to write your answers on a sheet, to write your letter on a sheet. In the computer based version, you will type your answer into the answer box, and that's how it will be submitted. In listening, for example, in listening part B, or reading part B, you have your questions there on screen, and you will select the answer with the mouse in a computer based test, whereas in the paper based test, you need to shade in the lozenge next to the answer you of your choice. So those are the differences. And what I would suggest is, if you would like to sort of get a feel of what the computer based test is like, you can go to our sample tests on our website, and I'm just going to post in the chat right now a link to our reading sample tests. But there is a page for every subtest, and you can visit that sample test page, scroll down, and you'll see an option to take a computer based sample test. So that will give you a really good idea of the subtle differences, the differences, and just how what you would need to do in the computer based test. In terms of scoring, which is your second part of your question, you the scoring is the same, so there's no difference in that sense. It's the test is scored the same way. And what our recommendation is, so for each subtest, there are different benchmarks that we recommend you reach, that will give you a good idea of being on the right track to get a 350 or a B. So in reading and in listening, we encourage you to aim to score between 30, so between 30, 31, 32, which is the low 30s. those that's the basic, that's the minimum we'd encourage you to score. You obviously should aim for higher to be confident of getting a B on test day. For writing, you have the criteria there. We You should aim to score a minimum of 5 on those criteria, which are scored out of 7. And for purpose, you should aim to score a 2 out of 3. In terms of speaking, again, aim for high score as possible. Again, 5 out of the 7, and in the clinical communication criteria. So the 5 out of 7 is the linguistic criteria, and the clinical communication criteria, you should aim to score minimum of 2. All right. So moving on, I'm going to quickly take this question up from Delia, who's joined us on YouTube. And Delia is asking, can we strike through the wrong answers in part B and C? And so if this is referring to the paper-based version of the test, so if you are talking about the selection of your answer, so, as I just mentioned, you need to shade the lozenge next to the letter, so A, B, or C. For example, in part B, A, B, C, or D. In part C, for reading, you need, so if you've shaded the answer already, and you want to change your mind, so you've changed your mind, you you the computer should be able to read your new selection well, right? The computer should be able to read it. So our recommendation is to erase the shading of that lozenge that you've selected previously, and shade in the answer that your new answer. If you strike out, the computer won't be able to read, it may get confused, and so we don't recommend that. If you're talking about striking out just the wording of the answer options, just as you are reading and you just want to, you're making notes, you're sure that that's not the answer, sure, go ahead and do that. But make sure you do that very clear of those lozenges there, so that there's no confusion, and the computer can read your answer. All right. Okay, so I've got a question, a comment here actually from Prashant, who joins us on YouTube. And Prashant's feeling a bit demotivated for his exam that's coming up on Saturday. So it's quite natural to go through all sorts of feelings before your test. Of course, some of us get nervous, some of us go blank, some of us might feel motivated as you are, Prashant. And so what I would encourage you to do is just to take just to relax. You've spent all of this time preparing, have some confidence in yourself. You've obviously spent time preparing, have confidence in the time that you have spent. And with the test just 2 days away, just take some time reflecting, thinking about what your strengths are, so what you're really good at, as well as what some of your weaknesses are. If you've got a checklist, a personal checklist of areas that you make mistakes in, typical mistakes, then I would encourage you to just go through that checklist, read through it. It's definitely perhaps too late to be doing more practice papers. That might get you a little bit more nervous. Maybe if you don't do well in those, at the last minute, you might feel demotivated. So avoid those. Just spend some time reviewing your notes. And another thing that I would recommend is to actually familiarize yourself with what will happen on test day. And so what I'm going to post in the chat is our ultimate guide to test day. And this is a really sort of really handy resource to read as you're preparing in the last few days of your test, because it really goes through all the things that happen on test day, some do's and don'ts, and that will help you feel more confident and prepared. So I'm just going to post that in the chat now. Do have a look. It's a really good resource. Okay, I've got I've got a question here from Ari on YouTube, and Ari's asking, how do you make reading Part C easier, and how do you gain more marks? Um, so, with reading Part C, um, perhaps I'm going to talk a little bit about the context of reading Part C and why it is designed that way. And remember that OET is designed to replicate real life things that you would do, real life tasks that you would do in your workplace. So, reading Part C is very much part of that. What it tests is your ability to understand opinions given by experts on a subject in the medical field. Now, why is this important? When you in many English speaking countries and workplaces, you have something called continuing professional development, and that is things that you would need to do to add to your portfolio, um, to grow, to show or to demonstrate that you're staying up to date in your knowledge of your field, in the medical field in general, and you're updating your knowledge. So that's the context of Part C, and therefore, like I said before, you need to understand the opinions of different experts on a topic. Some experts might disagree with a view. Some experts might agree with that view. Some experts might have a neutral opinion. And so, to make Part C easier is first to understand why it's there, why what you need to do. So the skill that you really need to work on to make it easier for you is to understand opinion and attitude, a writer's opinion and attitude. And one way that you can do this is actually by reading Part C kind of articles. So, not practice tests, but there's a lot of great medical articles out there. And those are great resources for you to really understand how a Part C text is structured. So, I'm actually going to put into the chat our reading week playlist. There's some recommendations there in the reading week playlist for extra resources, but I can give you a couple right now. So medical news today, that's a great resource that you can get more articles that are like sort of going to help you build the skill that you need for Part C. And nursing times is another one for all the nurses watching there. So I think that's my tip for you, is to understand Part C and the kind of skill that you need to develop, and work on that. So do check out the reading week playlist as well, Ari. Okay. Right. So I've got some questions. Just scrolling down. So I've got a question here from Sangeeta, and Sangeeta is asking about understanding listening A and Part B more. So if I had to give you a tip that would cover both of them, I think the tip is to understand what kind of listening you need to do in each part. So in Part A, you're listening to a consultation between a healthcare professional and a patient. And your job there is to complete the notes that the healthcare professional has made. All most of the answers are going to come from the patient's mouth, and using reading time is actually how you can improve or really sort of get better at both those parts. So, in part A, you have 30 seconds reading time. Use that time to anticipate what the blanks are going to be. So, if you look at a listening part A, question paper, you can see that it has headings, it has subheadings, and it has complete notes as well as blanks. So, in the reading time, reading those completed notes, the headings, subheadings, and really trying to think about what the answers in the blanks might be will help you prepare to listen. So that's with part A. If we apply the same tip, that is understanding the context and using the reading time, to part B, you've got three things there. You've got your question, you've got your answer options, but you've also got a little sentence at the top, and we call it the context sentence. Now, the context sentence is really important because, again, before the audio plays, you have a few seconds, you have some time to read the context sentence, the questions, and the answer options. So, really thinking about what you might hear in that part by reading the context sentence will help you. So, for example, if it's a pharmacist, it says, you will hear a pharmacist talking to a patient. So you really think about what kinds of things would a pharmacist be talking about. Then read the question with that in mind. For example, if it's about discharge medication, what is the pharmacist saying about discharge medication? What could they be saying to the patient about discharge medication? They might be explaining it, they might be talking about side effects. So, if you really use your reading time to think about and activate your knowledge, your prior knowledge, that will help your brain prepare to listen. So, using reading time and really paying attention. And activating your prior knowledge is a really great way to help improve your understanding of listening A and B. Okay, I've got a question here from Akshay, and Akshay is saying their reading scores not improving. What can he do? So with reading in general, so if like I said, you've got in general you're having problems with reading, you what often happens is a lot of candidates practice a lot, they work really hard and practice with a lot of practice tests, so sample tests from our website, maybe sample tests from elsewhere as well. What happens is that you're reading your reading sample tests, but that's all you're reading. You're and answering those questions. So you're not improving your reading skills. You're actually improving your test taking skills. So you're probably getting better at answering multiple choice questions, but that's not improving your skills. So in order to improve your reading skills, I would first of all encourage you to do a lot more reading outside of practice tests. So by that, what do I mean by that? So ti- think about the kinds of texts that you find in each part and pick those up, and to do some extra reading. So in part A, you have things that you would reference at work like dosage charts, you have medication information and so on. In part B, it's a lot of workplace communication, so you have guidelines, memos, emails, policies. A lot of that you can find on the internet. And Patsy, as I was explaining a little earlier, is more articles of general medical interest, expert opinions. So you reading that kind of material, which is outside of practice tests, would help you. And I posted the link to our reading week. And that was actually that I'm just going to post that in again in case someone's missed it. The reading week playlist has got 5 sessions covering the 3 parts of the reading subtest, but it's also got the first and the last session, really wonderful tips and a lot of resources there on how you can improve your reading skills. So do have a look at that. Right. Okay. I've got a question here from Sheikh on where can I find the best material for listening and reading. So the best place to find material for listening and reading is our website, the OET website. And if you go to the learn pages of the website, you will see that there's a lot of preparation material that you can access for free. So there's lots of blogs, but there's also, our guides, for example, and our sample tests. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to post the learn page of our website into the chat. And I'd encourage you to visit that page for more resources on reading and listening. Okay, I've got a question here from Shalu. Uh, how does listening get affected by some spelling errors? So with with listening, of course, there's a little bit more flexibility than reading, but the idea is that we'd encourage you to be as accurate as possible with your listening, with your spelling and listening. You're expected to spell words that medical professionals and the public, general public, would know. So if both of those groups of people know the word, then that is something that you're definitely expected to spell correctly. And if you spell it incorrectly, obviously you would lose that mark. So let me give you an example. So words like cholesterol, protein, these are words that are known by the general public as well as medical professionals. So all of that you're expected to spell correctly. And what I might do is give you just the link to our listening week playlist. So in the last session on the listening week playlist, that is video 5, you'll see there my colleague Rebecca goes through some of the common spelling mistakes that candidates made in a sample test, and from that you should be able to kind of understand what common errors people might make, and understand a little bit more about what the expectation is. Right, so I'm just scrolling down for some newer questions. And some questions perhaps from some of you on Facebook. So Jazzy on Facebook says, how to score high in speaking. So I think the easiest way to score high, or the best tip, is that you should be patient centered in your interaction. Now, what does that mean? It means being, listening to the patient, allowing the patient to asking them their thoughts, allowing them to share their perspectives, and really having them at the heart of the conversation. So if you're in a rush to complete the roll card and to move on to the next task, you might not do a really a great job if you're not listening to the patient and sort of using their responses to guide you through. Um, so that's very much in general. And what I've spoken about there is actually some of the things that you would find in the clinical communication criteria. You will find those criteria on our website. So I'm just going to post in the speaking page of our website. And I would encourage you to look at the assessment criteria, which are there. They're in PDF format. Have download them and have a look at the kinds of things that the assessors are expecting you to demonstrate in your speaking. On the page, so what I might just do is to actually share my screen. Let me see if I can do that and actually show you our a really great resource that really takes you through wonderfully, through all of the criteria, linguistic and the linguistic and the clinical communication criteria. And you can download this for free. It's got lots of examples. And I would encourage you to kind of have a look and see for yourself. So I am just going to try and see if I can present this. I think I might not be doing such a great job of that. Okay, got it. I'm going to, yeah. So here we are. So if you go down to our speaking, so this is the speaking page of our website. And if you scroll down, here is the criteria, like I said. You can download. Once you click this, you'll download the PDFs, have a look at the criteria. But if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see here the ultimate guide to OET speaking part 1, which is the linguistic criteria. Then you have the ultimate guide to OET speaking part 2, which is the clinical communication criteria. And I'm going to share, just open up the ultimate guide to OET speaking, the linguistic criteria. Here you can see this is this is what will be downloaded. So this is a PDF. It explains everything, but if you go down, so this is intelligibility. You've got lots of examples here, and this is something that you can really sort of use a resource to help you prepare. You've got audios here, and you can download this absolutely free. It's on our speaking page, so have a look at that. Right. Okay, I've got a question here on writing from Koos. And Koos is asking what type of letter in the writing subtest has been common in the recent past? Now, this is a very common way that candidates like to prepare. And especially if you're like so many candidates out there preparing for OET, you're probably going on social media, on YouTube, looking for videos that would be helpful. And often there are videos that talk about the kinds of letters that you might expect in the test. Now, these are actually quite misleading. And that is because no one can really predict, or no one can really say what kind of letter is going to appear in the in the test, it's wrong, it's malpractice. So therefore it's important to be very careful of these kinds of videos. If your way of preparing for the test is to lean on what kinds of papers have appeared, what kinds of letters have appeared, that is actually going to set you up for failure on test day. Now, let me explain why. The way that the test is designed such that no letter is every letter is unique. Let me put it that way. Every letter that you'd receive whenever in a live test is going to be unique. It's going to be completely different. And so if you've been preparing, sort of almost like using a template, this is the kind of letter that might happen, that might come, and this is the kind of thing that you might need to write, that is not going to work on test day, because as I said, each letter is unique, and the test goes through several checks and to make sure that each letter is unique. So instead of that, what I would encourage you to do is actually to prepare with the criteria in mind, which is the writing criteria. So if you go to our writing page, you'll see the criteria there. And there is an excellent resource, just like the speaking guide, there is our writing guide, and it's called the Ultimate Guide to OET Writing. And you'll see there a lot of tips that will help you prepare. And not just that, but yeah, you'll see lots of tips, lots of examples, and it's a really great resource. The guiding, sort of the guiding principle to preparing well for your test, for your writing test, is actually to keep the reader front of mind. So if you have the reader, sort of imagine the reader in front of you, and make your case note selection, the way you organize your letter based on the reader in front of you, that is actually going to help you write a strong letter, and you'll see that in the writing guide. So I would encourage you to download the writing guide and have a look at the examples, and stay away from preparing with with this sort of approach in mind. All right. um, just scrolling down, looking for some new questions. um, So I've got a question here from Arul, and Arul's asking, could you refer any book or study materials for physiotherapy? Sure. So if you visit our website, as I mentioned earlier, the sample tests, the learn pages, which you have our sample tests on, you will find 5 sample tests for physiotherapy. And in addition to that, you can also visit our store, which is, I'm going to post the link in the chat, where you can buy additional material for physiotherapy. One thing, though, I would like to also sort of speak about, that you can find on our store, is our Intro to OET. Now, Intro to OET is a great online course. It's a self-access course that you can do on your mobile. You can do it, on your laptop, anywhere, on any device, and it's a great resource. It's absolutely free. You can you'll find it on the store, but you register for the course. And it's got you've got medicine, you've got nursing, and you've got the allied health professionals, so that would include physiotherapists. And it's got a step by step explanation of each part. For writing and for speaking, it's got examples that have been worked, and it's got a lot of useful tips. So do check out the Intro to OET course on our website. But as I said as well, there's additional materials you can purchase there, aside from our free sample tests. Okay, I've got a question here from Amit, and Amit's asking, whenever we try reading and listening, part A, we get you panic. So how to overcome that? So I think with reading part A, one tip that I could give you is actually to start off, and that's with reading part A. Often, because of the timed pressure, the 15 minutes, candidates often get nervous and aren't really able to perhaps perform the best. So, really, a good way to practice and to get into the skills that um, you know, to really understand how Pate works and to get comfortable with that, one way to do it is to actually remove the reading, the 15-minute time limit when you practice. So you could start off with 25 minutes, you could start off with 20 minutes, whatever time it takes for you to complete all of the questions, smoothly, um, and sort of well. Start off with that time and then slowly work your way down. So reduce it from, say, 20 minutes to 18 minutes, 18 to 17, maybe 17 to 16. And that would help you to cope with some of those nerves there. With listening, as I said, using the reading time will really help you, because one thing that you might feel is, I don't know anything about what I'm going to hear, and that might be the cause of your nervousness. But actually, when you read the notes and the sheet there where you write your answers, you can see the notes, as I said. There's actually a lot of information in there about the recording, so something about the recording even before you listen. So that's a really good way to calm your nerves, is to tell yourself, you know you have reading time. You will sort of know what the audio is about, and you can prepare your brain to listen. Okay. I've got question here from Katrina. And Katrina's asking, how do you know what kind of paragraphing to use based on the case notes? So, Katrina, this is kind of goes back to what I said a little earlier about not having a fixed template or a fixed idea in your head about how your letter should be organized or what should be in your letter. That's because, as I said, each letter is unique, and you can really organize your letter in any way as long as it's logical and as long as it prioritizes the reader. So, organize your letter in order of importance to the reader. Put the information that the reader needs to know, that's the most important information, at the beginning. Put it at the start of your paragraph. When you use that approach, that is how you would know what you sort of you can be confident that the organization structure you use is going to be the best one for your letter. So there's no set format. It really depends on who the reader is, why you're writing to them, and based on that, you can make choices. I'm going to post from the writing guide, the excellent writing guide that I shared earlier, one section which is on organization. So do have a look at that, and it gives you a little bit more detail about what I've just talked about. Okay, I've got a question here from Pravilika, and she's asking, can you give us some more information about spelling and reading and repeating words from the question in the answer, like age, percentage? So, yes, so spelling in reading, you need to be 100% accurate. What we recommend is to copy the answer exactly as it is from the text into your space there. Do not change the word in any way. You don't need to alter it anyway. Just copy it exactly as it is, and take a couple of seconds to make sure that you've copied it correctly, so that you're not wasting your marks for missing a letter, or yeah, missing a letter. So you've got it 100% correct. About words, repeating words in the answer. um, so yeah, absolutely, we our advice is that words from the question or synonyms of words from the question should not be repeated in your answer. And there's actually a really great video that I'm going to recommend you watch, that really goes through a lot of those examples that you've mentioned in your question. So percentage, so if the question is what percentage of people, for example, you wouldn't need to repeat the word percentage, but yes, you would need to write the symbol, because the symbol means percent. So those sorts of examples are in the video that I've just posted. It's How to Succeed in Reading Part A. And I would encourage you to watch that after the session, and really understand what we mean when we say, don't repeat words from the question in your answer, or synonyms of words. Okay, I'm just looking for a few more questions, and some newer questions. Got a question here from Rahul, and Rahul's on YouTube, joins us on YouTube, asking, does official OET provide classes for OET? Um, so this is a really important question, because obviously, if you're preparing for your test, you want to get the best advice, and you want to have the teachers you know who have the skills to be able to prepare you. So what I would recommend, Rahul, is that you visit our preparation provider page on our website, and I'm just going to post that page in the chat. So all our preparation, so all our classes, that that we can recommend, the classes that we can recommend, are provided by our official preparation partners. You'll find them at, but the important thing to remember is that these are teachers that have been trained by OET, and that we've checked are qualified. So they have teaching qualifications, specifically language teaching qualifications, to be able to help you improve your English. And what you can do is visit this page. I'm also going to share this page right now, to give you an idea of how you can find someone that will help you. So this is our preparation providers page. And if you scroll down, here you can see a range of filters. Okay. So I'm going to filter by country, and I'm going to put in the country that I'm in, which is India. And as soon as you do that, you can see a whole list of providers that you can find in India. So you can see there's 3 pages there. I can scroll and find one. I can find one in a city near me, or you can find one in online. So, if what I'm going to do is just remove this filter. I'm going to remove this filter. So you can see a lot of our providers provide online classes. And what this means is that you can study with any one of them, wherever they are in the world, if that's your preferred way of studying. And they will help you. They have online classes. They might have regular classes, or they might offer you a certain kind of service. Like, for example, you just want feedback on your speaking or your writing based on the assessment criteria. So there are so providers have a range of options. They have classes, they have just feedback. Maybe you're interested in just mock tests and things like that. So there's a whole range of different things that you can avail from our providers based on what your needs are. So do visit that page. I think I've posted that in the chat. And I'm going to put that back in the chat again. Yeah. So do check out that page. Um, I've got a question. I've seen a couple more questions on podcasts for listening. So, could you recommend any listening podcasts? Varuni on Facebook is asking. And so, what I would like to recommend is actually a complete guide to listening. Now, a complete guide to listening, there's 3 parts. There's part A, part B, and part C. So, if you would like to improve part A, you need to listen to the kinds of things that you'd find in part A. So, more consultations between patients and healthcare professionals. If you want to improve part B, you would obviously listen to workplace conversations. So, everyday conversations that people have on the ward between patients and healthcare professionals, between colleagues. And of course, podcasts is a great way to improve part C. So, the complete guide to listening has 3 parts, A, B, and C. And at the end of each part, you will have recommendations about that particular part, how you can improve listening, external resources there. So I'm going to put in the chat complete guide to listening part C, where there's podcast recommendations. But like I said, do have a look at the other parts and you'll see more recommendations there. I've got a question here from Nishtala on YouTube. Nishtala's commenting with something about word count. It's not particular these days. Is that true? So when you write your letter, you'll see in the task instructions that your letter should be between 180 to 200 words. Now, that is a guide for you. Um, Often, when you prepare, and maybe a lot of times when you've prepared for other tests or written other letters, um, the examiner or the assessor or the teacher who's marking your letter is probably going to read or count each word. And you might lose marks if your word count is over a certain limit, or sometimes in other tests or exams that you might have done in school or in college, you are expected to write the word count sometimes. In OET, yes, there is a word count guide, but it's a guide. Assessors, the people who are marking your OET letter are not going to count words. What they're interested in is information. Okay, so what information have you included for your reader? Is it important? Is it relevant to what they're going to do? And is there enough information? Is the information you need to include there? And have you avoided or have you left out unimportant information? So that's the way you should look at your word count. I don't think of it as a strict sort of, the assessors are going to count the words. No, they're going to count the information. So it is a guide. If you find that your word count is going higher, um, I would say that perhaps you may have included extra information or unimportant information in your letter. So if you find yourself doing that, go back and ask yourself, did was this information really important for the reader to continue care? Maybe it was important, but you needed to summarize it and make it into one sentence. That could be one reason why you might be going over the word count. That guide, basically, if you're finding yourself falling short of the 180 guide, then perhaps you're not including enough information for the reader to continue care. So look at it from that perspective, rather than thinking of it as a strict, um, you know 180 to 200 word count. It's a guide to help you. Okay, I'm just scrolling down. Um, I've got a question here from Facebook, from someone on Facebook. San on Facebook's asking, "Can I change body weakness into fatigue?" So, if you're talking about the um, listening, listening part A, no, you absolutely cannot. You must write what you hear in the audio. You can't change the words. They must be exactly what you hear in the audio. Um, and if your question's about reading part A, again, the same thing applies. You must write only what is in the text. You cannot change it in any way. Okay, I'm just looking down for some more recent question questions. Um, right. So we've got some lovely news here from Rana, who's joined us on YouTube. Um, Thank you for sharing your success with us, Rehna, and wish you all the very best for your future. All right. Okay, I've got a question here from Merin. How would so adding articles with answers of reading and listening? So, Merin, if you have a look at our official sample tests, you'll see there are words in brackets in the answer key. So I'm just going to post in the chat our sample tests for listening, page to our listening sample tests. And what I would encourage you to do is to try out a sample test and look at the answer key. You'll find that there might be some words in brackets. These are optional. Generally, articles are optional, and often they don't form really a part of the answer. So you don't need to worry too much. Have a look at the sample tests and you'll get an idea of what I mean. Okay. Um, Got a question here from Sanya, and Sanya's asking, for a known case, if there's only little information, can we add the previous details by writing as you know? All right. So, Sanya, this is again a question that is about using a template for your letter, or thinking about a set way to do your letter. So often, sometimes people feel, okay, if it's a known case, I need to include this, or I must not include history. But actually, what you need to do is to think about the case notes as they are on the day of your test. So don't think about whether you need to include something based on it being a known case or an unknown case. Think about who your reader is. Of course, the existing relationship, if they have one with the patient, and what they need to continue care. We've got a really great article on our website, which is a great blog that would help you understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about. So, so sort of to answer your question, there's not a set way, and you shouldn't just include information because there's not enough information. If there's not enough information, like I said earlier, maybe you are missing some relevant information that needs to be included. So think again about the purpose of your letter, think about who you're writing to, why you're writing to them, and you'll find that there might be some notes that you've missed that you need to include. That's important. So I'm just posted in there the chat, the blog, for you to sort of check out. Right. I've got a question here from Tango Heart on Facebook. Is it okay if I repeat a word or conjunction in the writing subtest? So, with OET, the assessors are really assessing the effectiveness of your communication in your letter. They're not. The idea is that you demonstrate an effective letter. You don't need to demonstrate or show off really your language. So if you find that a conjunction is it's the best way to convey the information, and you're using it again, that's absolutely fine. So just for the sake of not repeating conjunctions, yeah, just for the sake of not repeating conjunctions, you write another conjunction. That's not really necessary, because that new conjunction might be a good fit, but it also might not be a good fit. So really think about the meaning and what's the best way to convey the meaning, and use the best word to convey that meaning. So that would be my advice: is not to worry so much about I repeated this conjunction, oh my goodness. Think about what was the best way to what's the best way to convey that meaning in that sentence, and choose the best conjunction for that. So I'm actually going to post in the chat a really popular article on connectors or conjunctions that on our website. It's got a lot of examples. So if you find that you do need to add to your variety of conjunctions, that's got some great examples. And it explains conjunctions a bit more. All right. So we're sort of in the last minute, and I'm going to maybe just pick out a question here from Ume. Tell us about transfer letters. So Ume, with OET, yes, there's three typical letters that you might write: a transfer letter, discharge letter, and a referral letter. Essentially, while they're slightly different, the idea is the same. And the idea is that you write something that is, prioritizing information according to the reader and the purpose for writing. And I'm going to post in the chat there a blog article on the kinds of letters that you have in OET. I'm just putting that in. Okay. I seem to have um, lost that. But what I would recommend is that you look at our writing guide. I just shared that a little earlier. It goes through some of, explains that those types there. But like I said, the principle is the same. That is, you need to keep your reader first and the purpose for writing to them at front and center. Okay, so with that, we've come to the end of the hour, and I'm going to uh, let you know about our next Q&A that's going to be hosted by my colleague Rebecca. And this Q&A is on Tuesday, the 2nd of April, if you're in the Americas. So if you're in North America or South America, you've got those times there on screen. 2:30 Pacific Daylight Time, 5:30 Eastern Daylight, and 6:30 Brazilian time. The same session, it's on Tuesday, 2nd of April, but actually on the other side of the world, which is Australia, the Philippines, it's on the 3rd of April. So that would be 8:30 a.m. Australian time and 5:30 p.m. 5:30 a.m. Philippine time. Now, you can watch all of these recordings on our YouTube channel. And if you've got a question that you want answered and that I haven't got through, you can contact us on Facebook through the messenger, and we will one of the members of our team will get back to you with an answer in 24 hours. So thank you very much for joining me today, and until next time, bye bye.